Better than expected report today on jobs in America. Hiring held steady in the month of April, and this is all in spite of the trade war talk and all the concerns about the future. And what did the stock market do? Well, it went up again. S&P 500's been up now 9 days in a row and has reversed the sell-off we saw after the big announcement, or right before the big announcement from President Trump in the Rose Garden on the 2nd of April. For more now on the state of the economy, we bring Richard Stern in. Richard's Director of Economic Policy and the Federal Budget at the Heritage Foundation. So, welcome. As I said, so what would you say, report card-wise, for our economy? Not about what's going to happen in the future, but where things stand right now with all the data we have.
Well, thank you for having me on to talk about this. Look, I think things are actually very good. As you pointed out, the job report came in very strong, and that's actually with a decline in federal jobs because DOGE is hard at work making sure your taxpayer dollars are rewarded and are not misused by the government. We just had a surge in private business investment in growing operations in the GDP numbers. So things are still a little shaky. You're right, tariffs put a little bit of a pause on the economy, but truth be told, the fundamentals are looking very good for my chair.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, because that's what we saw in the numbers. Now, we've seen other numbers, like the manufacturing number the other day was not strong, and that's kind of anticipatory anxiety, as I say, about the tariff, some of which is already setting in, but a lot of which is in the future. You did bring up an interesting point. I think we have charts of the jobs that we can see. But you said that the president, you're right, he wants to cut down on spending. Okay, and you can cut down on jobs, federal jobs, to your point about DOGE. We talk so much about tariffs and what that might do in the future. What about that? What about the effect of spending less and of cutting federal jobs on our economy? What will it be?
You have to remember that every single dollar the government spends is a dollar stolen from the American public, from a hardworking American that earned that money. Look, regardless of whether the government raises money by taxes, where it comes right out of your paycheck, or through deficits, then you'll just feel it with high interest rates, high inflation rates. Look, the 21% spike in costs we saw, cost of living during Biden's tenure, was because of the deficits. The reason why mortgage rates are still around 6.5%, almost 7%,
right,
is the size of the federal deficit. So the more we cut spending, the more we reduce those burdens, and you get to keep the money you earn. Businesses can use that to hire more people and to make more of the great innovative products that enrich our lives.
That's the point to me, sort of, about the anticipation about the tariffs, because if you say if tariffs are a form of a tax, people are worried about their taxes going up, especially middle-class people, small businesses, that they would have to pay more in the future. So what do you think the stock market is sending us in the form of a message? Is it saying, which I think maybe it is, it's saying maybe it's not going to be as bad as you think of the tariffs, that they're going to roll it down, they're going to cut some deals? Because I don't think it's a bet that the tariffs are going to go into place and it's all going to work out, because, you know, that's not usually how investors see it. What do you think of this bounce back rally?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. Look, so the stock market for about a month and a half there had been down 7 to 9 points, which is not great, but it's not too much, while they thought Trump was using the tariffs to negotiate deals. What happened on April 2nd was all of a sudden there was this clouded message from the White House that maybe the tariffs were permanent, that maybe they view that as a new way of doing economic business.
Yeah, like replacing the income tax with the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing I think that, oh, here it is, right on cue. I didn't even know it was going to come up. That chart, because those numbers, if we're being fair, just that didn't make a lot of sense. So now we're off of that now. I don't think when the president talks about quote unquote resetting rates, I hope he's talking about those rates. I think he's talking about something different. So maybe it's a different conversation then, Richard.
Oh, yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. Look, yeah, the numbers that the White House put out then weren't really the numbers that are in real life. That it's unclear where those numbers came from. They didn't really, frankly, make economic sense. But you're right. Now we know that Trump is back to using them purely as a negotiating tactic. We have countries, begging the White House for deals, so we know they're temporary. We know the president's doing what he does best as a negotiator in chief, getting these deals that expand markets, that'll make it easier for our producers.
That said,
and that's why the stock market's pared back those losses.
They don't have any of those deals yet, right? They haven't been announced. And they may, next week it could announce 10 of them for all we know. They don't have them, but so they have to produce those, right? That's why there's still uncertainty out there, if you're being fair, but, people are maybe a little bit more positive. But Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.